Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing a high-speed briefing on the top headlines from April 15th, 2026, all from that crucial UPSC exam perspective. Let's jump right in. Okay, so here's what's on the agenda. We'll kick things off with national politics, then look at the world and the economy. We'll also cover tech, disasters, and governance. And you'll definitely want to stick around, because I'm going to show you exactly how to frame a mains answer from today's news. Let's get started. All right, first up, let's talk national policy and politics. We've got 4 major developments you absolutely need to know about. So the government has circulated some new bills that are, well, they're a pretty big deal. They want to raise the number of seats in the Lok Sabha all the way up to 850 and, importantly, reserve a full 1/3 of them for women. But here's the catch. This whole thing is tied to a contentious delimitation based on the 2011 census, and that has kicked off a massive political divide between the North and the South. Over in Bihar, we've seen a pretty big political transition. Nitish Kumar has stepped down as chief minister, Samrat Chaudhry of the JDU is the new CM, and it looks like a clear move to bring in a new generation of leadership before the 2025 assembly elections. This is a big one. We've got a landmark decision from the Supreme Court on reservations. A 7-judge bench just ruled that states can subcategorize within SC/ST reservation lists. What does that mean? It means they can prioritize the most backward groups, creating quotas within quotas, and importantly, this overrules a previous judgment without breaching that 50% reservation ceiling. And another major headline, the Enforcement Directorate, the ED, has arrested Vinesh Chandal, who co-founded the political consultancy IPAC. The arrest is tied to a 50 crore rupee money laundering case, which allegedly involves bogus billing and fraudulent contracts. Okay, now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the world and the economy. We'll see how global pressures are playing out and what that means for India's economic outlook. So President Trump and Prime Minister Modi had a 40-minute phone call, and the main focus was the Strait of Hormuz. They talked about keeping it open and secure. Now, why is this so critical? Well, think about this. 21% of global oil and a whopping 60% of India's crude passes right through that strait. This is all happening as conditional U.S.-Iran ceasefire talks are in the background, so it's a really big deal. And check this out. The IMF has actually cut its global growth forecast to just 2.8%. But for India, it's a completely different story. They've raised our forecast to a really strong 6.5%. That's the highest among all G20 economies, so a real bright spot on the world stage. You know, India's making a really strong push with Gift City. The idea is to develop it into a true international financial services center, or IFSC, something that can go head-to-head with places like Dubai and Singapore. It has its own unified regulator, not RBI or SEBI, and it's already registered over 310 alternative investment funds. It's a huge move to attract global capital. This is pretty historic. For the first time in decades, Lebanon and Israel have held direct diplomatic talks. They met in Washington with the U.S. mediating. And what's on the table? The big things: consolidating the ceasefire and, crucially, the disarmament of Hezbollah. Okay, let's shift gears back home and do a quick run-through of some domestic challenges and reforms in tech, disasters, and governance. So, the center has hit pause on the 2026-27 wage revision for NREGS. This is a big deal, affecting over 7 crore active rural workers. The hike is now tied to the rollout of a brand new Unified Rural Employment Scheme called VB-GRAM-G. At the same time, we're seeing thousands of workers protesting, demanding minimum wage hikes. They're pointing out that wages have been stagnant since 2022, and this is all happening while the 4 new labor codes, which were supposed to consolidate 29 old laws, haven't been implemented yet because the states just haven't notified the rules. All right, let's talk about the Jan Biswas Act of 2023. The whole point of this act is to improve the ease of doing business. How? Well, it decriminalizes minor offenses across 42 different laws. So instead of jail time for small, first-time mistakes, it introduces things like financial penalties and lets new authorities handle it. It's a pretty big shift. Now there's a huge debate happening around an expensive cancer drug called Keytruda. We're talking up to 2 lakh rupees per vial. Here's the thing. Indian oncologists are saying that a lower 200 mg dose is just as effective as the standard 400 mg one. But the manufacturer, Merck, is refusing to supply the smaller dose. It's a real controversy. And finally, 2 incidents that really highlight some big infrastructure and industrial failures. First, in Chhattisgarh, 13 workers were tragically killed in a boiler blast at a Vedanta power plant. This really points to some serious gaps in the Boilers Act of 1923. Then, over in Mumbai, a massive tunnel boring machine for a metro project got stuck 60 meters underground, forcing them to completely change their tunneling method. So that's a lot of news, right? But the really crucial part is, how do you take all this and turn it into a great answer in your exam? Let's break that down. The key, really, is to go from just knowing the news to building a solid, structured argument. Let's see how that works. So let's look at this practice question taken straight from the source material. It asks you to critically analyze the constitutional, political, and representational implications of the Women's Reservation Bill. This is exactly how a headline gets turned into a mains question. And here's a fantastic framework for how you could structure that answer. You'd start with an intro, then dive into the constitutional analysis. You'd want to mention Articles 81, 82, 330, and 368. Then you'd analyze that North versus South political divide, discuss the gains in representation, but also the challenges, like proxy representation. You wrap it all up with a solid conclusion. See, it hits all the key dimensions.
So that was a really quick briefing, but of course, there's always more to dig into. If you're ready for the full analysis, the complete PDF we've been using has it all. 12 mains questions, 10 prelims MCQs with full explanations, and even a rapid-fire facts table. It's a really comprehensive resource.
Want to get it? It's super easy. Just scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the description to join our Telegram channel. You'll get the complete PDF there. It's an absolutely invaluable resource for your prep.